Alright, let's talk chump chops and cutting chump chops. So we'll assume that you've already got that little pelvis bone or tailbone popped out, so we're just up to trimming and then slicing. So I like to trim up a lot of that fat before I've actually sliced it out. It just makes it a whole lot easier when it gets to the trimming process. Rather than trimming each individual chop, you're trimming them all at the start before they're sliced. And on average, you're generally going to get 4 chops per chump. Sometimes you will have to cut them slightly thicker and only go with 3, which I'll show you a bit later on, but most of the time it will be 4, which makes it nice and simple. You can cut straight in the center and then on the center of either side, and that will give you your 4 chops. So a better view of what I've got going on here, I've got it upside down, I'm trimming the underneath here, and I'm taking off that extra fat, taking a little bit of silver skin off the tenderloin, and then just squaring up that square end, and then taking the last little bit of fat before I flip it over to then take that point off, just to save me having to do it, like I said before, individually. Another thing to note with chumps is you have to take a face cut off at the end that connects to the loin, as it's got a big chunk of bone and you're going to end up with more bone than actual meat when you're using the chop. So if you're selling it or you're eating it, it's not going to be as desirable to have something that's full of bone rather than full of meat. You could also see on that last chump that I only sliced out 3 chops. Now it wasn't as big a lamb and I didn't want to cut 4 skinny chops. I wanted to go some that were a bit thicker, so I went with 3 that were slightly larger rather than going 4 that were slightly thinner. Okay, so now we're at the stage where we need to put it through a bandsaw. So this is a good chance if you've got a bandsaw or even a benchtop bandsaw, they come in really handy. If you don't, you can use a chopper or a handsaw. It's just going to be a whole lot slower, but at the end of the day, you'll get the same process done. You're just going to be obviously taking a little bit longer to do it. If you are in the market of getting yourself a bandsaw, you can head over to Carnivore Collective. I've got the link in the description below, and you can buy a benchtop bandsaw off them. Put in the code word Jared10 at checkout and it'll save yourself 10% as well. Okay, so now when it comes to trimming your chop, this is going to be a personal preference on whether you do or don't like fat. If you don't like fat, then trim as much of that off as you can. If you like the fat, well, don't touch it. At this point, you can start bagging them up and put them in the freezer. Now, if you do need to display your chops, whether it's in a butcher shop display cabinet or a Sunday markets, they do have a good and a bad face. I find the best way to do this is just by simply splitting your chops in half. If you've got 4 chops, 2 are going to go one way and 2 are going to go the other way. It's pretty simple. Otherwise, you're going to just go off what visually looks better. Obviously, the smaller amount of bone on display, the better, and the less amount of fat on display, the better. Now, obviously, that visual aspect only really matters if you're going to be displaying them. If not, it's just a matter of canning them out, bagging them up, or vacuum sealing them, and then popping them in the freezer for when you actually need to pull them out for dinner. Hopefully this helped. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, or if you want to see something different, let me know as well. I'll see if I can put a video together on that. Otherwise, till next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.